Hello and happy Thanksgiving. A little late, sure. But if you're like me and you have a couple of Thanksgivings to go to this weekend, God, I don't know what I'm going to do about the second one either. I'm, s- the wife and I yesterday we spent Thanksgiving at her family with her family, and on Sunday we were going to go spend it with mine. And in case you haven't heard, the weather is supposed to be at the very least interesting tomorrow night, to the point where it's like, are they gonna have roads clear by the time we need to leave? All I know is that if I can't get yet another dose of turkey and stuffing, you don't want to be around me on Monday. You don't want to be around me on Monday. Just saying. Not like you want to be around me anyway, but anyway. Um, I'm Jimmy Rosari. Happy Thanksgiving. This is Leprechaun Lunch. I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be a rough one for everyone. This is gonna be a rough one. This Stanford game is just gonna be rough, man. All right. It stinks. 10:30 like we've all ridden this little roller coaster of emotion as far as this game goes. Probably, if anything, I think we're really just teed off about just the fact that it's kicking off at 10:30. Makes for a long day. And plus, like, Stanford's terrible. They're probably going into this, they've probably got a solid clue that they're about to get their doors blown off. Again, probably a season that we'll look back on and actually have to prove that happened, because I think Stanford is going to try to have it like written out, just like totally flushed from history. Because, whew, like there's Syracuse's season that went completely up in smoke the second that Steve Angeli got hurt. That's a talent thing, all right? Stanford's season is a lot more. I mean, yeah, talent, sure, absolutely. Stanford, not exactly a football factory right now, um, but it's a lot of other stuff wrapped into it too. A lot of other stuff. All goes back to March. Troy Taylor was fired on March 25th. All right. He was their head coach last year, in case you forgot. That alone, kind of made people think, yeah, March 25th, not exactly the ideal time to be hiring and firing coaches in the college ranks. That's what I've found out anyway. Probably made some people, around Stanford go, ugh, not going to be a good one for the Cardinal this year, is it? I mean, sure, 3-9 in back-to-back seasons, that's not great, but he wasn't left a whole heck of a lot from the end of the David Shaw era. It's actually kind of made, kind of surprising that they made it to 3-9 in those seasons and weren't just blown out of the water completely. But instead, Troy was fired because he was bullying people in the Stanford athletic department. An ESPN report revealed that Taylor had twice been the subject of third-party investigations into complaints from coworkers about the bullying, especially women. The first investigation detailed multiple complaints about Taylor's behavior towards female staffers, including multiple instances of making inappropriate comments regarding their appearance. In case you haven't figured that out yet, don't do that. After 2 new complaints surfaced against Taylor, Stanford commissioned a second investigation into Taylor that declared his behavior towards an NCAA female compliance officer. His behavior towards the NCAA compliance officer as inappropriate, discriminatory on the basis of her sex. That's in quotes, by the way. Not exactly a thing you want to have in quotes next to your name, is it? Also, Taylor attempted to have her removed from her position after she revealed concerns regarding NCAA rules violations, such as hosting illegal practices, player eligibility. And plus, if you want some more icing for that cake, they also found 7 level 3 NCAA violations occurred during Troy Taylor's time at Stanford. This was 2 years, by the way. He was there 2 seasons. So much for that happy homecoming that Andrew Luck was supposed to have, right? So much for that. crumple, toss behind. He was named Stanford football's GM a year ago, and don't get me wrong, that's I mean, who else are you going to put in that chair? You know, if you're going to have a general man, you know, who else besides one of the biggest names that your program has ever produced? But he was named Stanford's football GM a year ago, and had to deal with that mess before even being able to concentrate on anything on the field, which isn't exactly not exactly fair, you know, not exactly fair. By the way, if you're tuning in on the YouTube channel or on the Facebook Live channel as well, we're there at Sports Radio WSBT. So interact. Frank Reich brought in to Stanford to be the interim coach. I doubt he's getting that job on a full-time basis. And again, Frank Reich might be the best name out there if you're looking at coaches that are known by people other than family members. This season, Stanford is the worst scoring offense in the ACC at 18.7 points per game. 6th in the conference at points allowed at 27.4. 16th in rushing offense while giving up 113.1 yards per game. That's a respectable 6th in the ACC, at least. They're 15th in passing offense while giving up the 2nd most yards in the conference. So, and yet here they are. Here's Stanford at what? I believe 4-7. Maybe Frank Reich does get that job. Maybe he does. Still coming off of a win over Cal. They scored a season-high 31 points last week. You might have seen on SportsCenter that during the ACC network broadcast of the big game last week between Cal and Stanford. Again, on the ACC network. Anybody else still weird about that? Okay. Where he basically stopped in the middle of an interview and cheered on the game. It's pretty funny, actually. It was probably the most fun he's had in this calendar year, quite honestly. The Cardinals have also forced 7 turnovers across their first 2 November home games, which is good for the most of any team in the country. 2 of those takeaways came last week by way of scoop and score fumble returns. One of them cheered on by Andrew Luck in the middle of an interview. Standout linebacker Matt Rose, like a highlight at least for Stanford football. It's not totally lost. You still got Matt Rose at linebacker. Picked up a 3rd fumble in the big game win to add to his breakout season as one of the ACC's top defenders. 97 total tackles on the year, which is 2nd most in the conference. Matt Rose has been a stud for them. I think he's probably been there's a couple other guys too. They've been pretty woeful on offense, yes, but there are a couple of playmakers on that side of the ball too. Sam Roush, the most productive tight end in the ACC, 472 yards. Wide receiver CJ Williams, 5th in the conference with 58 catches. Problem is, who's getting them the ball? Ben Gulbranson, woof. I was looking at the stats today, and bottom, all the way at the bottom. Elijah Brown, redshirt freshman, He's struggled doesn't have an offensive line. I it's tough to get a read on his talent. Like Ben Goldbrinson, at least we've seen for a couple of years, and we know. Eek. Elijah Brown, though, like that poor kid's running for his life, but does have a couple of safety valves with Roush and Williams. So again, not all is lost at Stanford, but it sure as hell looks like crap, doesn't it? Yikes. For Notre Dame, they just have to stay healthy. You got to stay healthy. That's like the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. And sometimes you can control that, sometimes you can't. All right. I just don't think that you can afford another big loss on defense like KVA last week. Which, by the way, it's fine that he was playing at that point. It was still the first half. You don't pull your starters in the first half. You got to get your starters their reps. Yeah, all right. That's why you had CJ Carr still in there in the, after halftime. You still had Jeremiah Love in there after halftime. You got to get those guys their reps, man. And Notre Dame is still having to play for style points too. Still got to do that. Unless Miami goes out and craps the bed, like I think they will at some point between this game tomorrow against Pittsburgh and then ACC championship game, if they make that game. We'll go through the I want to demonstrate like why Miami being 12th in the rankings is kind of remarkable. Like they want to talk about being ripped off. How can you be a team in the rankings if you have to do this many tiebreakers? We'll do that. We'll do that in a sec, okay? But still, if enough chips fall in the Irish's favor this weekend, and I mean, looking at the schedule, there could be some chips falling. We could be looking at another chance to freeze our collective tchotchkes off with another home playoff game. Come on, don't say that you didn't have fun last year. Don't say it. Don't even try to allude to it. Don't. Okay? I know you had fun out there. It's another chance to, it's the last chance actually for Jeremiah Love to make his case for the Heisman. So, you need to know when to say when there too, but at the same time, enjoy this last regular season game with him in an Irish uniform. I mean, again, he's probably got a couple of playoff games in him still, but maybe one more with the home uniform on, maybe, but definitely a couple with the road, the road uniform on. So, and then it's gonna be tough on us, man. Like it's gonna be tough. Like anybody. Like forget the fact that Notre Dame's got to play into a kickoff time where it's 10:30 East Coast time. It does kind of screw with your body clock a little bit. If it were a 7 o'clock kick, all right, or a 7 Eastern kick. Okay, so that's just like 4 in the afternoon out there. That's fine. That's right in our wheelhouse. But 7 o'clock Pacific, 7:30 Pacific. Jeez. Like seriously, Red Bulls for dinner, coffee and view, whatever you got to do, man. Like it'll be interesting to me to see how many people are still are able to talk about plays that happened in the fourth quarter of this game without having to go to highlights first. Me, I'm set. I've got all the all the energy drinks that I could possibly handle, all the coffee that I could possibly handle. But for people who don't have to be awake by the time the final gun comes around. By the way, the worst of that snowstorm tomorrow is supposed to be coming between 6 and 11 tomorrow. Like, just stock up now, all right? Stock up on the six-pack now. So, yeah, tomorrow night's going to be rough in a multitude of ways. On that note, though, Miami fans still crying about where they're ranked right now. All right. I've got a hard time thinking that they're worthy of a playoff spot. All right. Like, seriously. Okay, they beat Notre Dame, first game out of the season. Beat them by 3. Okay. Miami hasn't gotten better. Like, they climbed for a couple of weeks and then I've got a hard time with Miami's case for being ranked above Notre Dame at the very least. I mean, really, this kind of applies to them just being in the rankings at all. But like, how do you take a team seriously that has to do all of like one of these scenarios? Okay, like for instance, all right, let's see, Virginia. All right, Virginia clinches a game in the ACC championship with a win. That's all they got to do. Or they got an SMU loss, a Pitt loss, and a North Carolina win. All right. So Virginia's in control of their own destiny there. All right. SMU, same thing. They've got to win. Or they need Pitt to lose, Duke to lose, Virginia to win, and North Carolina to win. Or they need Pitt to lose, Duke to lose, Virginia to win, North Carolina State to win, Boston College to win, and then finish higher than both Georgia Tech and Miami in the Sports Source Analytics ranking, whatever the hell that is. Or they need Pitt to lose, Duke to lose, Virginia to lose, North Carolina to win, Boston College to win, and then still finish higher than Georgia Tech and Miami in these Sports Source Analytics rankings. But for the most part, they're controlling their own destiny there. All right. Win, you're in. All right. Pittsburgh can jump over one of those teams anyway. With a win over Miami and either Virginia losing or SMU losing. All right. That's how Pitt gets into that game. Georgia Tech's even got a chance to get in, albeit a little bit more outside. Duke's got a chance to get in too. Pitt or Georgia Tech needs a Pitt win, a Virginia loss, and an SMU loss. Duke needs a win, a Pitt loss, and an SMU loss. Miami, in order to make the ACC championship game, needs a win, a Virginia loss, a Duke loss, and an SMU win. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but shouldn't a team that, they're talking about, don't you think a team like that should just have to control their own destiny in order to be considered better than anyone? Like that's it for me anyway. That's a solid mark for me. And how many? They've got 8 different scenarios, okay? They have to win in all of them and then need, let's see, at least 2 teams to lose in all of them. What? You should have just taken care of your own business and not lost to Louisville and SMU. I'm just saying. SMU is actually not bad. They were in the playoff last year. But Louisville, it's just Louisville. You know that. It's just Miami. It's just Miami. Seriously, Miami is just I can't take that team seriously, man. I can't take it seriously. I want to. I mean, they look pretty good back in week 1. Not gonna lie. They won that game, they won that game by outplaying Notre Dame, by being better than Notre Dame that day. But since that day, eh, eh. Anyway, a little bit of a short show today. I'm gonna be getting out of here at 12:45 today because we've got Irish hockey today. Notre Dame taking on Boston College at Conti Forum in Boston on Chestnut Hill. Broadcast starts at 12:45 on the Notre Dame radio network, and then after that gets done, we'll have the Chicago Bears and Philadelphia Eagles game, the Black Friday game. We'll have that on after hockey. So some good stuff coming our way today here on Sports Radio WSBT. Some picks, whether or not those are going to be good, who knows? Use them at your own peril, really. But we'll go through my picks for the weekend coming up. Yeah. Leprechaun lunch, by the way, brought to you by everybody's friend, Tim Grell, State Farm agent Tim Grell. For all of your insurance and financial needs, give Tim's agency a call at 574-232-9981. Also, big thanks to Cheers Bar and Grill for presenting our pre and post game coverage every week during the season. South Bend Orthopedics, also Academy Sports and Outdoors, Walker's Egg, First State Bank. Couldn't do it without any of yous, so we do appreciate that. Some live scores. We've got games going on right now. Even you got the Egg Bowl between number 7 Ole Miss and Mississippi State. That is tied at 7, about halfway through the first quarter in that game. And then coming up with 2 minutes left in the first quarter between number 13 Utah and Kansas. The Utes, what is a Ute? Leading 3-0 in that game. So games already happening. That's crazy, but I love it. Ole Miss closed it as a 7.5 point favorite. Utah a 10.5 point favorite at kickoff today. So there you go. All right. Like I said, my betting advice, use at your own peril, but I will say 9-8 last week. Above 500. Above the Mendoza line. It's about time that happened again. At the last time that happened was week 1. I went 10-5 in week 1. I was feeling good. And then it all went downhill. I'd have had more of those on the plus side, by the way, last week if it wasn't for spreads. Rutgers, you jerks. Anyway, number 4 Georgia is at number 23 Georgia Tech today at 3:30. Georgia Tech a 13.5 point favorite there. I like that's just such a difference between talent levels. I just like SEC team, top tier SEC team, by the way, versus, a team that might make the ACC championship game. I think Georgia in the points there. The Old Oak and Bucket game is tonight. 7:30 kick. NBC is showing Indiana murdering a whole team tonight on national television. Not just on Peacock, but on NBC. 7:30 kick on that game. IU 27.5 point favorite. I like IU covering there too. Like IU doesn't take their foot off the gas. That's, they have no time for resting players. Kurt Cignetti has to prove a point. Number 3 Texas A&M at number 16 Texas. There's a game actually worth your watch. 7:30 tonight. Note that in A&M's 3 best challenges, their 3 greatest challenges of the season anyway. At Notre Dame, and against Arkansas and South Carolina as well. All right. The score lines totaled 81, 87, and 61 points. Those are in their 3 toughest games, which is well above the 52.5 that you're getting in Austin tonight. Big play A&M offense, all right? Marcel Reed, 43 passes of 20 or more yards. 43, Jesus. That's almost kind of like shooting fish in a barrel against a Longhorns defense that's allowed 37 such plays through the air. Only once this season has A&M scored fewer than 31 points. On the other hand, though, Arch Manning and the Texas offense finally seem in gear, and that 52 points scored last week against Arkansas kind of suggests that. This one could go back and forth. Like that's gonna be a good old fashioned Texas shootout right there. Did I almost say Texas? What? Anyway, take the over between A&M and the Horns tonight. Number 25 Arizona is at number 20 Arizona State. 9 o'clock tonight. A little bit of a curveball lately in the Territorial Cup with the road team winning big the past 2 seasons. This one should be a little bit closer. It's also Arizona's turn after absorbing a frightful 49-7 beating from the Sun Devils a year ago. So a little bit of revenge on their mind, too. It's also aren't the same Wildcats either. A couple of plays from being 9-1, while quarterback Noah Fafita has sufficiently rehabbed his rep from a really bumpy 2024. 25 touchdown passes versus just 5 picks this season. Pretty solid. Full respect for Kenny Dillingham at ASU and turning journeyman Jeff Sims at his 4th school, by the way, into a competent pilot in wake of Sam Levitt's injury. But the Fafita-led Cats, I mean, Fafita, they just seem to be playing with a sharper edge of late. And also, you know, that 49-7 drubbing that got hung on them last year is still probably ripe in their minds. So I like Arizona. They're a 1.5 favorite tonight. So I like Arizona on points, straight up, whatever. Whatever number's best for you. Tomorrow, the game. At noon, number 1, Ohio State at number 15, Michigan. From a chance to defend the national title, this game doesn't really matter to Ohio State. All right, they're going to be in the playoff regardless. But if you want people to not still call for Ryan Day's firing even after a national championship game, maybe you go out and win this one. End that skid and that, you know, before it gets to 5. I wonder if OSU, though, I wonder if they're so concerned, you know, I wonder if they're so concerned about laying a beat down that they just lose outright again. You know? hasn't won 5 straight in the series since the 20s. I'm doubting that it does that here tomorrow, all right? I'm doubting that. But if they keep it fairly close, possibly. That's a rush game that's averaging 232.5 yards per game over the past 5. Could happen. Number 5, Texas Tech is at West Virginia. Take the over there. That's at 52.5 points. Number 12, Miami at number 22, Pittsburgh. I like Pittsburgh winning just because. On standards alone, damn it. Also, the point total, just go with the points here. 49.5 on that. Go over on that. Central Florida, UCF is at number 11, BYU tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I think Central Florida is going to cover the points there. I don't know why. Just sounds like a good way to go. If I took less of those types of picks, you know, it just seems like a good way to go. If I did that less, maybe my record would be better. Maybe. I don't know. Number 6, Oregon is at Washington. Take the points there. The over, 51.5. So go over on the points. LSU's at number 8, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's going to just run. They're going to run on LSU. 11.5 point favorite there. I think they cover tomorrow. Number 14, Vanderbilt at number 19, Tennessee. Clark Lee, by the way, getting a 6-year extension down in Vanderbilt. Wow. Good for him. The point total is ridiculous in that game. And I don't think they come close to it, actually. 66.5. Like I know neither one of those teams has a defense worth a crud, but like Florida doesn't really have much of a defense either, and they gave Tennessee enough fits to keep them at 31. That fell well below the point total in that game last week. So under 66.5. Virginia Tech is at number 18, Virginia. Virginia, an 8.5 point favorite. I see no reason to think that Virginia is not going to win, especially when they have, you know, when they're in control of their own ACC championship destiny here. Although for some, that would be, kind of the reason why you would pick Virginia Tech in that instant. Who knows? Wouldn't surprise me, though, if Virginia Tech pulled that upset. Number 10, Alabama, 5.5-point favorite at Auburn. I like Alabama and the points. UCLA is at number 17, USC tomorrow. 58.5, the point total on that game. Go over. Number 24, Tulane, hosting Charlotte. Second week in a row that we get to talk about Charlotte. Weren't they the sacrificial lamb for Georgia last week? I think they were. Anyway, Charlotte's terrible. They've won, I think, one game this year. Tulane's a 30.5-point favorite. And I'm liking Charlotte to cover because I think there's some pride going on there. Like, seriously, like you don't want to get housed in your last game out of the season, especially on the road. You kind of want to have something to build on. Maybe they start something in Charlotte. I don't know. Number 21, SMU's at California. That's a 52.5 point total. There we go. Or just a 52.5 point total. English is not my strong suit. Take the under on that. And then finally, because, the ACC said, make them stay up. Make them stay awake. Number 9, Notre Dame at Stanford. And Notre Dame's a 32.5-point favorite right now. Picking against Notre Dame after a 63-point win just kind of feels wrong, but there's enough going Stanford's way to suggest that they can keep this within that massive number. 32.5 is a lot. And nobody's going to confuse Stanford Stadium with, one of the nation's toughest environments or anything like that. But the home team is 4-1 straight up in the Bay Area and did just set a season high in points in front of its local fans. Frank Reich's squad simply much sharper than they were. More competent at home, definitely. Combine that with the fact that Marcus Freeman probably going to be content with sitting on a lead, keeping his guys healthy for the playoff. A 5-touchdown margin, doing that back-to-back weeks. That gets awfully hard to do. So, Stanford in the points. But I think Notre Dame still wins outright. Like, they're still winning that game by 30. So, but yeah, there's plenty of dominoes to, there's plenty to happen there. Heck, if Michigan beats Ohio State, I think Michigan winds up in the top 12. In the top 12, I think. Maybe. You never know. Anyway, I'm out. Notre Dame hockey on its way. Very, very soon. Like I said, taking on Boston College this afternoon. 1 o'clock face-off, 12:45.